Hey everyone, if you're into real family confessions that get darker than you expect, hit that like button and subscribe for more. I never thought I'd be sharing this. I ended up in bed with both my brother and my mom while my sister watched, and it became our secret that changed everything. It started on a completely normal Friday night last summer. I was 22, home from college for the break, and the house felt too quiet after Dad left for a work trip. Mom was stressed from her job, always rubbing her temples after long days at the office. My sister was glued to her phone as usual, scrolling endlessly in the corner. My brother had just turned 19 and spent most days gaming in his room. The faint sound of controllers clicking through the walls. We were just a regular family trying to kill time together, nothing special, nothing dangerous. That night we decided to watch a movie in the living room to break the silence. Mom suggested something light, a comedy she'd heard about. She sat between me and my brother on the big couch while my sister took the armchair across from us. The lights were off, only the dim glow from the screen painting everything in soft blues and shadows. I noticed how Mom's thin tank top clung gently to her curves in the flickering light, the way the fabric shifted when she breathed. My brother's arm brushed against hers as he reached for the remote, and that small contact sent a strange heat-rising in me that I immediately pushed down. This is my family? What the hell is wrong with me? I shifted in my seat, trying to focus on the jokes on screen, but my eyes kept drifting back, like it was becoming a quiet habit. Mom laughed at a silly scene, her voice soft and warm, and she leaned her head on my brother's shoulder for just a second. Her familiar lavender scent filled the air between us, light and comforting, the kind I'd known since I was little. I told myself it was nothing, just comfort after a long week, but my eyes kept drifting to the way her hand rested lightly on his thigh, fingers relaxed against the denim. We're just close. That's all. Stop overthinking. The room felt smaller somehow, the couch sinking under our weight, bodies close enough that I could feel the warmth radiating from her side. Over the next few nights, the routine continued without anyone saying much. Shared popcorn bowls led to fingers accidentally touching in the dimmants, quick brushes that lingered a heartbeat longer than they should. A scary scene made Mom grab my brother's arm first, then mine, her grip tightening as she gasped. Each time the contact stayed, skin on skin, warm and electric under the blanket Wed pulled over our laps. The silk of her robe against my arm during one movie became something I couldn't ignore, soft and sliding with every small movement. This is innocent family time. I'm sick for even noticing these things. Yet I didn't pull away. I stayed right there, heart beating a little faster, telling myself it was just the movie, making everything feel heightened. The air between us started to change, thick with something unspoken. Mom's breathing would catch sometimes during quiet parts, and I'd wonder if she felt it too. My brother's leg pressed closer to hers, casual at first, then deliberate. I caught my sister glancing over from her chair, her eyes curious in the low light, but she never said a word. The scent of popcorn mixed with Mom's lotion, the faint heat from 3 bodies on that couch, it all pulled at me in ways I hated admitting. I kept thinking we should space out more, but no one moved. Every night I told myself tomorrow would suggest separate seats, yet when the next evening came, I was right back in the middle of it all, craving the closeness even as guilt twisted in my chest. And then on the 4th night, after a couple of glasses of wine Mom had poured to unwind, she chose a steamy drama instead of our usual comedy. The room grew thick with tension as the love scene played out, shadows and whispers filling the screen. My sister suddenly said, her voice low and teasing, "You'd look really cozy over there." Mom didn't pull away when my brother's hand slid a little higher on her leg under the blanket. Before I knew it, her other hand was on my knee, squeezing gently, fingers warm through my shorts. That touch crossed everything. God. We can't, but I don't want her to stop. The movie kept playing, but none of us were really watching anymore. Mom's fingers stayed on my knee, not moving away, not pressing harder, just resting there with a warmth that seeped through the thin fabric of my shorts. I could feel every tiny shift of her breath, the way her chest rose and fell a little quicker than before. My brother sat perfectly still on her other side, but I saw his hand under the blanket, resting higher on her thigh now, the outline barely visible in the flickering light from the screen. The air in the living room felt heavier, like the summer night outside had crept in and wrapped around all of us. I swallowed hard, telling myself to pull my leg back, to laugh it off, to say something normal about the plot. But my body wouldn't listen. That gentle pressure from her hand sent tiny sparks traveling up my leg, pooling somewhere low in my stomach that I refused to name. This is Mom. My own mother, the woman who used to tuck me in and make pancakes on Sundays. What kind of person lets this heat build just from a touch like this? Like some silent agreement had formed, Mom wore that soft oversized shirt she liked for lounging, the one that slipped off one shoulder when she moved. She settled between us on the couch once more, closer this time, her bare knee brushing mine as she adjusted the blanket over our laps. My brother reached for the remote, his arm crossing in front of her, and for a second his fingers grazed the side of her shirt. She didn't flinch. Instead, she let out a small laugh at something on screen, tilting her head so her hair brushed his shoulder. The lavender scent was stronger tonight, mixed with something warmer, like the lotion she always smoothed on after her shower. But my mind was elsewhere, replaying the way her hand had felt the night before. When a funny scene came on, Mom shifted and her shoulder pressed lightly against my chest. Just for a moment, enough for me to feel the softness there, the living heat of her. I told myself it was accidental, family closeness after Dad had been gone for days, nothing more, yet my pulse wouldn't slow down. Stop noticing, stop wanting to notice. Night after night, it kept happening. The same couch, the same dim lights, the same quiet pull. One evening she passed the popcorn bowl and our fingers touched longer than necessary, hers lingering against mine as if she'd forgotten to let go. During a tense part of the film, she reached for my hand under the blanket, squeezing it when the character on screen gasped. Her palm was warm, slightly damp, and the contact sent a shiver I couldn't hide. My brother's leg had moved closer too, pressing against hers, and I could see the way her breathing changed, shallower now, like she was trying to stay calm but failing. The silk of her robe one night felt impossibly smooth when her arm rested against mine for the whole second half of the movie. I hated how aware I was of everything, the faint rise and fall of her chest, the way my brother's breathing matched hers sometimes, the occasional glance from my sister across the room, her eyes reflecting the screen but watching us instead. This is just how families relax together. We're all stressed, that's all it is. I'm the one making it weird in my head, but the denial was getting harder each time. The couch felt smaller, the blanket like a shared secret. Mom would sigh softly during quiet scenes, a sound so faint I wondered if I imagined it, yet it pulled at something deep inside me. Staying there a heartbeat too long, I found myself leaning in without meaning to, craving that warmth, that closeness, even as guilt twisted tighter in my chest like a knot I couldn't untie. By the third or fourth night, the touches weren't quite accidental anymore. When Mom grabbed my arm during a jump scare, her fingers traced a slow circle on my skin before letting go. I caught my brother's eyes meeting hers for a split second over her head, something unspoken passing between them. The room smelled of popcorn and her lotion, and the faint trace of wine she'd started sipping earlier in the evenings. Heat radiated from where our bodies met under the blanket, her thigh against mine, his against hers. I kept thinking we should stop this routine, suggest a board game instead, anything to break the spell. Yet every night when the sun went down and the living room lights dimmed, I was right there again, heart racing, waiting for the next brush of skin, the next shared breath, the next moment where everything felt one heartbeat away from changing forever. On the fourth night, everything tilted. Mom had poured herself a second glass of wine, the kind that made her cheeks flush just a little and her laugh come easier. She picked a drama with those slow-burning scenes that linger on glances and almost touches, the kind of film that feels too close to whatever was happening right there in our living room. The air grew heavier as the couple on screen drew nearer, their breath assisting in the quiet. My sister broke the silence from her armchair, voice light but edged with something curious. "You do look really cozy over there." Mom didn't shift away. If anything, she settled deeper into the couch, her body warm between us. Then my brother's hand moved, sliding higher along her leg under the blanket, slow enough that it could still pretend to be innocent. Her breath caught, just a tiny hitch I felt more than heard, before my mind could scream at me to look away. Her other hand found my knee, fingers curling there with a gentle squeeze that sent heat tracing straight through me. God, we can't. This is crossing every line we were never supposed to see, but I didn't pull back. Neither did she. The touch stayed, her palm warm through my sweatpants, thumb tracing the smallest circle that made my skin burn. My brother's fingers kept their slow path, and I could feel the way her body responded, a subtle tension that pulled all three of us tighter together. The movie played on, forgotten. My sister's eyes stayed on us from across the room, not shocked, not turning away, just. That realization made the ache inside me sharper, deeper. What are we doing? Why does it feel like the room itself is holding its breath with us? We didn't speak when the credits rolled. Mom stood first, smoothing her robe with hands that trembled just slightly, murmuring something about it being late. But her eyes met mine for a heartbeat too long, then my brother's, carrying a weight that said everything we held in voice. Sleep came hard that night, tangled in guilt and a craving I couldn't name. The next evening changed the rhythm forever. Mom sat closer than before, her shoulder brushing mine, then pressing lightly as the opening scenes began. The lavender from her lotion wrapped around me again, warmer now, mixed with the faint trace of wine on her breath when she leaned in to whisper a comment about the plot. My brother's fingers traced lazy circles on her arm, right there in plain view under the dim glow. I felt her breath quicken against my shoulder, shallow and uneven, each exhale brushing my neck like a secret she couldn't keep in. Heat pooled where our bodies met, her thigh resting firm against mine, his against hers, the blanket a thin veil over what was building. Every small shift sent electricity humming through me, her softness so close, so alive. I told myself we were still just watching a movie, just a family unwinding after a long week. Bolder, my own fingers itched to reach, to feel more of that forbidden warmth, even as shame twisted tight in my chest. Shes our mom, Achies my brother. This hunger is going to ruin us, yet stopping felt further away than ever. For the weeks that followed, movie nights turned into our hidden language, a ritual we all returned to without needing to name it. Touches deepened under the shared blanket, her hand finding mine nor his in the dark, lingering with a pressure that spoke volumes. Mom's soft sounds during the quieter moments on screen, those faint breaths that quickened and caught, looped in my mind long after the lights came back on. The texture of her skin under my palm when I finally let myself rested on her leg, smooth and warm and trembling just slightly, made my heart hammer against my ribs. Sister stayed in her chair, eyes reflecting the screen but fixed on the three of us, her silence like another layer of the secret pulling us under. Guilt crashed over me in waves each time. Heavy and cold. She gave birth to us. We grew up calling her mom, not this. What kind of person craves the gravity of her closeness like this, night after night? Yet when the next sunset dipped the room in that familiar dim light, I was there again on the couch, pulse racing, body leaning in before my mind could argue. The pull was stronger than reason, a storm I was drowning in willingly. Her scent, her warmth, the way our breaths started to sink without trying, it all fed the hunger until every ordinary moment outside those nights felt empty. One evening the film barely registered. Mom's hands moved between us with a serene that stole my air, exploring in ways that made the air thick and charged. My brother leaned closer, his presence mirroring mine, and the room filled with whispered names, soft and urgent, the forbidden cadence of discovery wrapping around us like the blanket itself. Waves of heat rolled through, pulling me under again and again, her body the center of a gravity none of us could escape. I kept thinking this secret was quietly tearing at the family we used to be. But the thought of walking away from these moments now felt like trying to stop breathing. And then, in the middle of one particularly charged silence, Mom turned her head just enough that her lips hovered near my ear, her voice a trembling thread. Mom's voice came out as a fragile whisper, barely louder than the forgotten dialogue on screen. But I can't pretend anymore. The words landed against my skin like warm rain, sinking straight into the ache that had been building for weeks. My brother shifted closer on her other side, his breath catching in the same uneven rhythm as hers, as if the three of us were already tethered by something invisible and heavy. Across the room my sister's eyes never left us. She sat perfectly still in the armchair, the glow from the television painting soft shadows across her face, but there was no shock there, only a quiet, knowing hunger that made the air feel even thicker. I felt Mom's fingers tighten slightly where they rested, not pulling away, not demanding, just holding on as if letting go would break the delicate thread keeping us from falling completely. Each radiated where our bodies pressed together under the blanket, her warmth seeping through thin fabric until it blurred every boundary I thought I still had. My heart slammed against my ribs, each beat echoing the silent question hanging between us. How far are we willing to let this gravity pull? That night the movie ended without anyone noticing. We stayed tangled there long after the credits rolled, breaths mingling, hands exploring in slow, trembling circles that spoke more than words ever could. Mom's quiet eyes became the only soundtrack, soft and unsteady, each one sending fresh waves of electricity humming through me. My brother's presence on her other side mirrored my own, his low murmurs blending with hers until the room felt alive with our shared secret. Something warmer and more dangerous, wrapping around us like invisible chains. Guilt tried to claw its way in, sharp and familiar, reminding me of lazy childhood mornings and family dinners where she was simply Mom. But the craving drowned it out, stronger than any storm had ever known. I was sinking, willingly, into the pull of her closeness, the way her body responded to the lightest touch, the way my sister watched it all unfold without a single protest. It felt like drowning in slow motion, beautiful and terrifying at once. Then came the evening. Dad's car light swept across the driveway earlier than expected. Panic exploded through the room like cold water. We scrambled apart, hearts racing, blanket thrown aside in a frantic rush. Mom's eyes met mine, wide and glistening with unshed tears, her voice cracking as she whispered, "This has to stop, we can't keep risking everything." My brother stood frozen, chest rising and falling to fast, while my sister finally spoke from her chair, her tone steady yet trembling underneath. "I've seen it building for months. I didn't want it to end either." In that frozen moment, with Dad's keys turning in the lock downstairs, something shifted inside me. The fear, the shame, the crushing weight of what we'd become. It all crystallized into a single, aching truth. I looked at Mom, at my brother, at my sister whose gaze held the same conflicted fire, and the words left me before I could swallow them back. "I don't want to stop. This secret, it's part of us now, even if it destroys what we were." Mom's hand found mine again for one brief second, her touch trembling with the same unresolved longing I felt burning in my chest. We agreed in hurried whispers to keep the movie night sacred, just for the four of us, a hidden world no one else could touch. But even as we straightened the couch and wiped away the traces, I knew the ache wouldn't fade. Some nights I still lie awake replaying those charged silences, the way her breath used to brush my neck, the heavy gravity that pulled us all under. We chose to hold on to it, fragile and wrong as it is, but the cost lingers like a shadow that never quite leaves the room. Would you have stopped when the lights came back on? Or would you have kept feeding the hunger too? Tell me honestly in the comments, and if you want to hear exactly how the first time we crossed beyond the couch truly felt, the moments that still haunt me in the quiet hours, smash that like button. I might just whisper the rest in the next one. The secret isn't over yet, it never really ends.